Visible to our eyes, but they are everywhere in the air, water, soil, and even in your food. They are microorganisms. Some are helpful heroes, like turning milk into curd, while others are troublemakers, causing diseases. In this chapter, let us uncover the secret world of these tiny creatures, our friends and foes. Firstly, let us look at the definition of microorganisms. Microorganisms or microbes. They are tiny living organisms that are too small to be seen with our naked eye. Hence, they can be only seen using a microscope. Now, let us perform an experiment. You take some moist soil from the field, preferably in a small beaker, and add suitable amount of water to it. After the soil particles have settled down, take a small drop of water from the beaker and observe the drop of water under the microscope. Now, students, what do you observe? You will observe that there are various tiny organisms, or rather microorganisms, present in this minute drop of water. The microorganisms that you will observe are in different shapes, sizes, and they can be classified as bacteria, paramecium, fungi, algae, or amoeba. Now let us look at the classification of microorganisms. Microorganisms are classified into four major groups, and these groups are mainly bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and some algae. Let us look at viruses. Viruses also are microscopic, but remember they are different from other microorganisms. How? Viruses have a property in which they reproduce only inside the cell of the host organisms, which may be a bacterium, plant, or an animal cell. Now, some of the common elements that are caused by viruses are cold, influenza, flu, and most coughs are caused by viruses. There are also several serious diseases like polio and chickenpox that are also caused by viruses. I have attached a picture from your NCERT textbook. Observe the shape of virus, and this is a very important diagram that can be asked to draw in your exam. So kindly study. Now, some of the other diseases that are caused by microorganisms are diseases like dysentery and malaria that are caused by protozoa or protozoans, and typhoid and tuberculosis, also known as TB, is a bacterial disease. I have also attached a picture of bacteria. Observe the shape. There are two different kinds of bacteria here. Bacteria has four main shapes. That is coccus, which is shaped spherical or oval shaped bacteria. You have bacillus. These are rod shaped bacteria. Spirillum, which are spiral or helical in shape, and vibrio, which are comma shaped bacteria. Here also observe that you have protozoa, algae, and fungi. In protozoa, you have amoeba and paramecium. In algae, you have Clindomonas and Spirogyra. And in fungi, you have bread mold, penicillium, and aspergillus. Please remember the shape, remember how to identify them, how to draw them. This can be asked as a very important question in your exam. So kindly remember this. Let us move on to the next topic, that is rather subtopic, that is where do microorganisms live? We have looked at the classification. Now let us classify them as single cell and multicellular. So single cell can be bacteria, some algae and protozoa, whereas multicellular, such as many algae and fungi. Where do they live? Microorganisms live in different types of environments, ranging from ice cold climatic conditions to your hot springs, and from deserts to marshy lands. They are also found inside the bodies of animals, including humans. You'll be shocked to know this. Some microorganisms grow on other organisms, while others exist freely. Let us look at the friendly use of microorganisms. Making of curd and bread. Lactobacillus, which is a bacterium, promotes the formation of curd. How? It multiplies in milk and converts the milk into curd. Bacteria are also involved in the making of cheese, pickles, and many other food items. Bacteria and yeast are also helpful for fermentation of rice, idlis, and dosa batter. Let us perform another experiment. What you do is take half kg flour, also known as atta, maida, and you add some sugar to it. Now mix this with warm water. Then you add a small amount of yeast powder to it and knead the flour to make a very soft dough. Leave it for 2 hours, and what you observe is after 2 hours, the dough will rise. Now, what does yeast do to the dough? Yeast is a type of microscopic fungus which is used in baking. When added to the dough, the yeast will ferment the sugar present in the dough. Then it will produce carbon dioxide gas, which is a byproduct. The gas gets trapped in the dough and it causes the dough to rise and become soft and fluffy. Yeast is also used in baking industry for making bread, pastries and cakes. Let us look at the commercial use of microorganisms. Microorganisms are used in the process of alcohol making, wine, acetic acid, vinegar. They are used in all of these. Yeast is also used for the commercial production of alcohol and wine, and for this purpose, yeast is grown on natural sugars, that is, in grains like barley, wheat, rice, crushed fruits, juices, etc. Let us perform another experiment. What you do is take 500 ml of water in a beaker and you dissolve 2-3 tablespoons of sugar in it. Add half spoon of yeast to this and keep it covered in a warm environment. Now, you will observe a smell. This smell is of alcohol as sugar has been converted into alcohol by yeast. This process is also known as fermentation. What is fermentation? Fermentation is the process of conversion of sugar into alcohol. So, this experiment clearly explains the process of fermentation. If you're asked who discovered fermentation, so Louis Pasteur discovered fermentation in the year 1857. Medicinal use of microorganisms. We have looked at the friendly use of microorganisms, commercial use of microorganisms. Now it's time to look at how do we use it as a medicine. We have often used and heard the term from doctors, or maybe when you go to the chemist, you will hear this term antibiotics very often when you fall sick, and especially due to bacteria. So, antibiotics are medicines that are given to stop or to kill the growth of disease causing microorganisms. These days, a number of antibiotics are being produced from bacteria and fungi. Commonly known antibiotics that we hear of are streptomycin, tetracycline, erythromycin. These are used to cure many diseases. Antibiotics are also mixed with the feed of livestock and poultry to check microbial infections in animals. Besides this, they are also used to control a number of plant diseases. Let us look at the origin of antibiotics. How did antibiotics originate? In 1929, Alexander Fleming, this is his picture, was working on a culture of disease causing bacteria. Suddenly, he found that the spores of a little green mold in one of his culture plates, this is his culture plate, he observed that the presence of the mold prevented the growth of bacteria. In fact, this mold also killed many of the bacteria. Therefore, from this mold, penicillin was prepared. I hope you have understood this. So while Alexander Fleming, I'll just revise this again. While Alexander Fleming was working on a culture of disease causing bacteria, he found that the spore of a little green mold was present on his culture plates. Now, what did this mold do? It prevented the growth of bacteria and it also killed the bacteria. Many of the bacteria were killed. So, it is this mold from which penicillin was prepared. Precautions while using antibiotics. These are some of the precautions that I have listed and which are given also in your NCERT. The first precaution is take antibiotics only on the advice of a qualified doctor. Second, always complete the full course prescribed by the doctor. Third, avoid using antibiotics unnecessary or in wrong doses. Fourth, misuse can make antibiotics less effective in the future. Fifth, unnecessary use may kill beneficial bacteria in the body. Sixth, antibiotics do not work against cold and flu, which are caused by viruses. Instead, for viruses, we use vaccines. Vaccination is a preventive measure against viruses. I hope this was clear. Next, we move to vaccines. How do vaccines protect us? Have you ever wondered? Have you ever thought about the process? Let us look at it. So, when a disease causing microbe enters a body, the vaccines will trigger the production of antibodies to fight the infection. The body retains a memory of how to combat or how to fight the same microbe if it enters again. So, introducing a dead or a weakened microbe into a healthy body stimulates the immune system to produce antibodies without causing illnesses. These antibodies they remain in the body And what they do is they provide long term protection against this disease. This is the main principle of vaccination. So, disease causing, I'll revise it again, disease causing microbe enters the body. What it does is it triggers the production of antibodies to fight the infection. Then the body has a memory of how to combat the same microbe if that same microbe enters again. So, introducing a dead or a weakened microbe into a healthy body, it will stimulate our immune system to produce antibodies without causing any illnesses. Therefore, they provide long term protection against illnesses. I hope you have understood this. Disease such as cholera, tuberculosis, smallpox, hepatitis have been all prevented using vaccinations. It is essential to protect all children from serious infectious disease through vaccinations. Necessary vaccines are available at your local hospitals or health centers, PHCs, district hospitals. Public awareness campaigns such as those on TV and in newspaper, they promote vaccinations. Especially if you have heard of Pulse Polio program. Here, polio drops are given to the children in the form of vaccine that helps prevent this disease. A small vaccination campaign successfully led to the eradication of smallpox disease as well from most parts of the world. Today, vaccines are produced on a very large scale and they protect not only humans but animals as well from various diseases. Who is the brain behind vaccines? So, Edward Jenner discovered the vaccine for smallpox in 1798. Remember his name. Role of microorganisms in decomposition is your next subtopic. Microorganisms play a very vital role in decomposing dead organic matter into substances that enrich the soil. Microbes can only act on biodegradable matter and convert them into simple substances. Non biodegradable material cannot be broken down by microbes and hence they remain unchanged. Example is plastic. The nutrient released during decomposition are used by the living organisms and hence they help in replenishing the soil and maintain ecological balance. We have looked at how microorganisms have helped us, have helped humanity, have helped in the commercial production. Now, let us look at the harmful microorganisms. These harmful microorganisms or disease causing microorganisms in human beings, plants, and animals are known as pathogens. Microorganisms also lead to the spoilage of food, clothing, and leather. Leather, especially during monsoon, you'll observe a very thin film over your shoes or over anything that is made of leather, maybe even your bags. This is due to the effect of microorganisms. You'll see growth over it, a thin film growth. This is due to microorganisms. Disease causing microorganisms in humans. How do pathogens, which are harmful, disease causing microorganisms, how do they enter the body? They enter the body through air, water, food, or even direct contact with an infected person. Communicable disease. This is another important term you need to remember. They are diseases that are spread from one person to another person. These are known as communicable diseases. Examples are cholera, common cold, chickenpox, tuberculosis. Modes of transmission. How does the process of transmission take place? Three ways: airborne transmission, contaminated food and water, and direct contact. In airborne transmission, it is due to sneezing by an infected person. It releases droplets which contain viruses, which can affect the other person through breathing. Second, contaminated food and water. When exposed to pathogens, can cause illnesses. Uh, Example is food poisoning. When food is left open or, you know, it results in the spoilage of food, or too long it is kept outside, it results in spoilage of food. Flies are also a very major concern in the contamination of food. Direct contact. Physical contact with an infected person can also spread certain diseases. This is a very important table in your NCERT. Some common human diseases caused by microorganisms. We'll be looking at the human disease, the causative microorganisms, the mode of transmission, and the preventive measure. Your first disease is tuberculosis. It is caused by bacteria, and your mode of transmission is air. Second disease is measles, that is caused by virus. Your mode of transmission is again air. Third disease, chickenpox. Causative microorganisms are viruses. Mode of transmission is air or contact. Next disease is polio. Your causative organism is a virus, and your mode of transmission is air or water. Preventive measure for this set of diseases is you need to keep the patient in complete isolation. Keep the personal belongings of the patient away from those of the others. Vaccination is also to be given at a suitable age. Let us move on to the next set of disease, that is cholera and typhoid. Both of them are caused by bacteria and they spread. Cholera spreads to water and food, whereas typhoid spreads through water. Your preventive measures here would be maintain personal hygiene and a good sanitary habit. Consume properly cooked food, and boiled drinking water can be prevented using vaccinations. Hepatitis A caused by viruses. Mode of transmission is water. Preventive measure is drink boiled drinking water and vaccination. So basically, this occurs due to water. Hepatitis A and even, yeah, malaria. Malaria is due to protozoa, and the mode of transmission here is a mosquito. Preventive measure: use mosquito nets and repellents. Spray insecticides and use controlled breeding measures of mosquitoes by not allowing water to collect in our surroundings. We should avoid stagnated water. If we find stagnated water anywhere, always make sure to spray oil, since it prevents the air, prevents oxygen basically to enter, and does not allow the growth of the larvae of mosquitoes. Let us look at disease causing microorganisms in animals. We're looking at two diseases, that is anthrax and foot and mouth disease in kettles. Anthrax is caused by a bacterium and it is very dangerous to both humans as well as cattles. Foot and mouth disease was caused by a virus in kettles. This picture here is the foot and mouth disease. Robert Koch in 1876 discovered the bacterium that is Bacillus anthracis, which causes the anthrax disease. Disease causing microorganisms in plants. Plants such as wheat, rice, potato, sugarcane, orange, apple, and others. These are only some plants that I've listed here. This disease causing microorganisms, what do they do? They reduce the yield of crops naturally. How are they controlled? They are controlled by chemicals, pesticides, insecticides, etc. This table here is from your NCERT. You have your plant disease, microorganisms, and the mode of transmission. First disease, you have a citrus canker caused by a bacteria, and the mode of transmission is air. Second disease is rust of wheat caused by fungi, and your mode of transmission is air or through the seeds. Your third disease is yellow vein mosaic of bindi caused by microorganisms such as viruses, and mode of transmission is insect. I put down the three types of disease in their picture. So this is citrus canker, rust of wheat, and yellow vein mosaic. Observe the pictures carefully. Can be asked maybe for identification. So observe the pictures very carefully. Next, we move on to food poisoning. What is food poisoning? It is due to the consumption of food spoiled by some microorganisms. Microorganisms, they produce some toxic substances in our food, and this makes our food eventually poisonous, which can cause serious diseases and sometimes even death, known as food poisoning. Therefore, it is very, very, very important to prevent our food from being spoiled. How can you avoid it? You can avoid it using preservatives. Avoid keeping your food in the open. Avoid eating anything that is in the open and not closed. Refrigerate your food. Warm up your food. Boil, or maybe if there is any meat or anything you're eating, make sure that you boil your food. Uh, Refrigerate, which is another preventive measure or preservation technique. Let us look at food preservation. Food preservation can be done in many ways. Your first method is chemical preservation or chemical method. In this method, we use salts, edible oils, which check the growth of microorganisms. Therefore, they are known as preservatives. We add salt or acid preservative to pickles or to prevent the attack of microbes. Sodium benzoate and sodium bisulfite are also some of the very common preservatives that are used. They are used in jams, squashes to check their spoilage. You have the second technique, that is preservation by common salt, often used in preserving fish, meat for ages. Fish and meat are covered with dry salt to check the growth of bacteria. Salt is used to preserve amla, raw mangoes, tamarind, etc. The next method we have is preservation by sugar, used especially in preserving jams, jellies, squashes. Sugar reduces the moisture content, which inhibits the growth of bacteria, which causes it to spoil. Preservation by oil and vinegar is used in to prevent the spoilage of pickles because bacteria in general cannot live in such environments. You also have vegetable, fruits, fish, and meat, which are preserved using oil and vinegar technique. Next method is heat and cold treatment. We know that low temperatures inhibit the growth of many microorganisms. Pasteurized milk can be consumed without boiling as it is free from harmful microbes. Now, what is done in this process? Milk is heated at about 700 degrees Celsius. How long it is heated? 15 to 30 minutes, 30 seconds only. Remember this. And then suddenly, what they do is they chill the milk and it is stored. What happens is this prevents the growth of microbes because immediately it is heated and cooled. So, this prevents the growth. And this technique is known as pasteurization. It was discovered by Louis Pasteur. We also have another method that is storage and packing used for dry fruits, uh, even vegetables. They are stored in airtight containers or airtight packets to prevent the attack of microbes. Let us move on to another topic that is nitrogen fixation. This is your last topic in your NCRT. Rhizobium is a bacteria that lives in the root nodules. This is a picture that I have attached. You can observe. Uh, what kind of root nodules they live in? So they live in plants that are legumes like beans, peas, etc. What it does, it forms a symbiotic relationship with the plant, fixing atmospheric nitrogen into a usable form. What is a symbiotic relationship? Although you had studied in uh, class 7th, but let me revise this again. So, symbiotic relationship in very simple terms are two different organisms which live together, helping each other or depending on each other. This process helps to increase the soil fertility naturally without any chemicals. Lightning can also fix nitrogen by converting atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogen compounds that mix with the rain and they enter the soil. Nitrogen cycle. So we know that 78% of the atmosphere contains nitrogen gas, and nitrogen is very essential to all living organisms. It is also a key part of proteins, chlorophyll, vitamins, nucleic acids. Therefore, it is very, very, very important. Now, plants and animals cannot use atmospheric nitrogen directly since it is a gas. Therefore, you have your nitrogen fixing bacteria and blue green algae, which are present in the soil, and it converts nitrogen gas into usable nitrogen compounds. Plants, they absorb these compounds through their roots to make proteins and other molecules. Plants obtain nitrogen by eating, animals obtain nitrogen by eating plants. Let us look at nitrogen cycle, the definition. When plants and animals die, decomposes, which consist of bacteria and fungi, they break down their bodies into nitrogenous compounds. These bacteria convert these compounds back into the nitrogen gas and they return it into the atmosphere. Therefore, you observe the nitrogen level in the atmosphere remaining constant. It does not change or vary. Uh, this is your nitrogen cycle that is in your NCRT. So, you have your atmospheric nitrogen. They can be converted into two ways, that is, either by the process of lightning or through nitrogen fixing bacteria known as rhizobium. through lightning. Let us look at the first. Lightning converts the compounds of nitrogen in the soil, and bacteria turns compounds of nitrogen into gaseous nitrogen, which is taken up by the plants. Animals eat these plants, and nitrogen is waste from excretion and death. The second way is nitrogen fixing bacteria, fearing nitrogen. This bacteria in turn fix nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds. They are taken up by the compounds of nitrogen in the soil. Then bacteria turn these compounds of nitrogen into gaseous nitrogen, and they are again converted into atmospheric nitrogen. So that's all for this video. I hope you understood. And if you did understand, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments which chapter you want me to explain next. Your support means a lot. See you in the next video. Until then, bye. Take care.